we have a scene about negotiation.
Thank you. All right. I have called each of you in here today to inform you that you are failing my class.
Are you serious?
I can't be
No,
failing.
I'm joking.
What, 30
Yes,
to 40%
you're failing my class.
isn't failing. At least I'm getting some grades.
30 to 40% is not failing. All right, what is your excuse for
I
failing?
can't be failing. There's no possible way. I'm the smartest
Well,
student in this
obviously you're
class.
failing because you're not getting the work done.
Do you see these two morons? How can I possibly
Yo,
focus
I'm a
getting work
moron
done?
now?
Okay,
Poindexter,
okay,
really?
okay, okay.
Really?
I'm sorry, what did you call me?
Professor.
Go ahead.
I am going out a lot, yes I am, but this is for good reason because at parties there's no better way to meet people, business people, networking, that's
It
what it's all
sounds
about.
to me like you have your priorities a little
Set.
confused.
I've actually got a party to go to right now, but
Bump that.
Miss, I really need this. I want to go to Harvard Business School and I'm going to meet this guy.
Just like that?
And I've got then a party.
So if you fail this class, what makes you think you're going to go to Harvard? What is your excuse?
I'm going to give you my purse.
Come on, Professor. You already know my deal. I'm on the football team. I'm on a sports scholarship. I'm trying to graduate. It's my last
How
semester.
will you get a sports scholarship if you fail the class?
Is it my fault that my teacher's not trying to teach?
You're not even going to graduate, idiot.
How do you know what I'm doing? Think because I'm a jock I can't graduate?
Miss, can you
Poindexter?
just-
Really?
If you don't do the work, you
This
can't
can't be
graduate.
happening.
It's
My
that
parents
But
would
if
simple.
the teacher's
kill
not
me.
teaching, then what am I left with?
My parents pay out of pocket for this.
Exactly. I can't fail me.
There is nothing that I can do to help any of you.
Can you
I
recommend
told
a
you so many
private
times
teacher?
about these people.
No, I cannot recommend a
Word.
private teacher. I recommend that you actually do your
Fail
work
me.
and then you can pass. Same thing with you. Do your work and then you pass.
I did
I'm
my
not
work.
negotiating
Miss,
check
this
the
with
book.
any
Talk
of
to
you.
the teacher.
All right,
She
that
don't
is
teach.
enough.
You can give them a round of applause. It's okay. I tried to negotiate going first. My colleague, Dr. Poster, took my story about prisoners, and so I'm finished, thank you. Negotiation, dealing with how to get your way. Every book in the field talks about a win-win situation, that you and I should have a win-win situation. There was no win-win in this dialogue that went on here. Why? Because people talked over one another. Nobody listened to each other. Everybody was set in their ways and their issues. So when we talk about negotiation, whether it's for educators or business people or people sitting here or students, negotiation is a life skill. We're constantly negotiating. The other day, my son says to me, "Can I borrow the car, Dad?" For me, that's a yes or no answer. But as a negotiator, I might say to him, "You know, Matt, every time you borrow the car, you never bring it back with any gas." So if he wants the car, he will say to me, "I'll replace the gas I use." So as I reach for my keys, I then say, "One other thing. I don't know where you take this car, but it's filthy when you bring it back. Dad, I'll take it through the car wash." He gets the car. I get the car back with gas and clean. That's negotiation. Those of you that own a home negotiate the sale or the price of a home. But there are other variables and issues in a negotiation. In a very famous book in the field called Getting to Yes by Uri and Fisher out of the Harvard Negotiation Project, the first chapter begins with this story. A woman comes home from work. She's had a tough day on the job. She's tired. She wants to hear nothing from anyone. Both of her kids are yelling and screaming in the kitchen. "What are you going on? I want the orange. Give me the orange." They're yelling about an orange. She's had it. She says, "Give me that orange." She takes the orange, takes a knife, and as coolly and calmly she can, she divides that orange neatly in half and gives each of her children half an orange. The children continue to cry and bicker. What did mother do wrong? She never asked the kids what they were arguing about. She didn't discover their issues. She didn't know what their needs are. Instead, she did what many parents do, what many professors do. We solve the problem for them. Had she asked them what they wanted the orange for, one child would have said, "Mom, I would like to eat the orange." The other child would have said, I need the rind of the orange for the zest to make a cake. Had she heard their responses, she would have been able to satisfy both of their wishes and end up with a win-win situation. So now let me put something up. Hopefully this will hold. Let's see what happens here. There's a clip, Carrie, if you could. I don't know if you can get it up there. If not, we'll use the tape. Oh, it might not go this far. It doesn't go that far, so let's use the tape then. Good enough. Here's a very basic definition of negotiation. Communicating back and forth for the purpose of reaching a joint agreement about differing interests and needs that both parties feel good about. That's a mouthful. Let's talk about the first word. When you negotiate with someone, hopefully it's face-to-face. In business today, in my experience, we negotiate on the telephone. We negotiate via email, video conferencing, teleconferencing. It's very difficult to do that because if you negotiate face-to-face, you're not just dealing with the verbal communication, you can take a look at the nonverbal communication of the person that's sitting opposite you. We communicate back and forth. In this scenario, there was no back and forth. There was constant interrupting each other, so nobody communicated back and forth. The purpose of reaching a joint agreement. If the students were complaining to their professor about their grade, they really weren't planning to talk about their grade. That was a spontaneous ad lib back and forth. Negotiation back and forth must be planning. 90% of all negotiation is planning beforehand. Differing interests and needs. That's a mouthful. What are people's needs? Do we ask them in a negotiation situation, what is your need? Imagine purchasing a car or leasing a car. We've all been in that situation. You walk into the dealership, sometimes they're happy to see you, sometimes they're not happy to see you. As if you're buying a car is doing them a favor. You sit down with a salesperson and you talk. But first, you look at the sticker price. No one ever pays a sticker price. I'm going to negotiate the sticker price. And I'm going to get a better deal than that. So you take up an hour and a half of the salesperson's time. Well, what are your needs? I need a car that gets 50 miles to the gallon. And I'm in a Jeep dealership. That's out. I'm in a Toyota dealership. And I say, I can satisfy that need. I'd like to have a car, and you go through your different issues and needs. When you come down to the bottom line, when you're ready to make a deal, the salesperson says to you, that sticker price in that car is $40,000, but I'd like $42,000. Why would you pay more than the sticker price in that car? Because the Toyota Prius a couple of years ago was a highly desirable car. The demand exceeded the supply. So oftentimes in a negotiation, there are things that you don't know about. There are hidden agendas that people come to the table with that you really have no clue about until they've surfaced. The last one is a very good one. Both parties at the end of a negotiation have to feel good about what they got or what they didn't get. Let me flip the chart and go to my next one. Here are, you can't see it, but it says the 6 stages of negotiation. And here they are. The first stage is finding facts. You introduce each other, try to find out what the other side is interested in knowing. Human nature has us do this. WIIFM. What's in it for me? And if I can't satisfy those needs, we don't think about that. The other part is this one. What's in it for them? All negotiations involve some pre-planning as to what is the other side going to want of me. Interesting. Introducing our goals. What are the goals of a negotiation? To win, to get the best deal possible. And we've heard expressions like this in a negotiation. You've got to be kidding me. Come on, you're going to have to do better than that. Or my favorite one, this is my last and final offer. All of those are ploys and tactics, somehow to move a negotiation along. introducing the goals. It's not always win-win, but it can be win-win. In an introductory course in negotiation, you learn about how to make concessions very valuable, how to watch out for some of these ploys and tactics. I am sure everyone who's watching this or sitting here now knows about the good cop, bad cop routine. But have you heard about cherry picking? Common routine in business negotiations. You're buying a bunch of products like marker pens, and you say, well, I like these colors, I'll take these 3, but I don't want the green one. That's what we do when we go cherry picking. You go to the supermarket to buy cherries, you rip off a plastic bag, you go to the bin, and you do what I do. You pick the best cherries in your bag. That's what happens in negotiation. You try to get the best deal possible by picking the alternative ones that you want. There are ways to overcome those type of situations. Learning the perspectives and issues of the other side. I was involved in a negotiation where an educator was late to class. The administrator was standing by her door and started to admonish and yell at her for being late to class. Words like this were said: don't you know the shortest distance between 2 lines is a straight point, walk a straight line? I can get to class on time, why can't you? It went on and on. They asked to have a facilitation, a negotiation, a mediation. I was the person they sought. They came into my office, and we went back and forth for a while, and I said to the teacher, what do you need? What do you want from this administrator? I want an apology. The administrator said, I'm sorry. Not good enough. Why? You insulted me in front of my students. Apologize to me in front of my students. I'll do that. She went to the classroom in front of a student and said, I acted hastily, I apologize, and we thought that was all well and good. Situation resolved. I am a wonderful negotiator. Win-win. The next semester, the supervisor did not rehire her. Held a grudge. What does that mean? Not all negotiations are binding. The problem with that issue is something we call in negotiation leverage or power. One person has more power over another. My son wants the car. It's my car. I have the power. In the scenario you heard over here before about students arguing with their professor about a grade, who has the power? The educator, the professor. Is there a place in the college to go to somehow mediate your disputes? Is there a place in business that employees can meet with their supervisors or direct reports meet with their administrators? There are. In many institutions and businesses, there are peer review committees, negotiation centers. One of the things I was very proud to do when I was the director of conflict resolution centers, we have in every high school in Manhattan a peer mediation program where students get together and resolve their own problems after being trained. Creatively selecting options for mutual gain. And the key word there is creatively selecting. I must tell you this anecdote. I teach a graduate course at Pace University. The students of mine become principals of schools. I won't mention the name of the school, just self-disclosure. I get a call from this principal after he's been my student. He says, I have an issue with some of my 7th grade girls. What's the issue? Every morning they go into the girls' bathroom, put on their lipstick, then go over to the mirror and put their lipstick prints on the mirror. How can I stop them? I said, you were in my negotiation class. You can come up with a creative option. Let's take a look at some of the issues. Can you send a letter home? Yes, you can. You'll scare everyone in the school, but can you find some disciplinary action? Yes, you can. You can find those girls that are responsible, but we want to creatively select some options. So I told him what I thought he should do, and he did this. And then wrote an article in High Points magazine saying that Professor Blank at Pace University told me what to do, put my email address to the university. I got 15,000 emails the next day. Here's what I told him to do. Tell me if this is not creative. Make an announcement over the public address system. Have all the 7th grade girls come to the bathroom at the end of the school day. There were 30 girls. Maybe 20 showed up. Fred, the custodian, is waiting at the bathroom with the principal. He says, girls, come into the bathroom. Let me show you how hard it is for the custodial staff to remove your lipstick. Fred, the custodian, takes a mop, puts a thing on the end, opens up the toilet. Word spread like wildfire. That was a creative option. Now, of course, he did get a phone call from an irate parent saying, I can't believe you what? He said, no, we don't, but I didn't want to suspend anyone. He somehow found a creative way to somehow find a solution. Assessing and bargaining is the actual hardcore negotiation and reaching an agreement. Let me just skip something and draw something. A lot of people have the wrong perception of what negotiation is. Let me just talk about, leave it, I'm going to flip back. Let me show you what perception's all about. Now, we are recording this Success Conference, right, Carrie? So I'm talking to the live audience here. What do you see? I hear someone say an exclamation point. That's good. Okay, what else do you see? A triangle and a circle, a very logical answer. We're not sending you to a psychologist for that answer. All perceptions become your reality. So your perception in a negotiation is you may go in with one idea and the other side may have another idea. The more information you have, the better the negotiation is, the better the perception is. I'll use black. Does that change your perception? Someone said, yes, I've given you more information. You want to do that in a negotiation, get as much information as possible. Remember, if you're buying a house and the sale price of the house is $500,000, and you say to the owner of the house, the roof is in terrible repair, I'll take off $50,000. $50,000? Yes, I happen to have some estimates here that how much, if you're prepared, here's what I have, then perhaps you might get that $50,000 off. More information. What do you see now? I did this in front of 400 educators at a conference in Bethpage, and one teacher said to me, that's simple. That's a person bending down, looking between their legs. If you hear laughter, the people that are laughing have seen what I saw, but you didn't see it until I said it. So the idea of being on the same page or seeing eye to eye or having an agreement came from the recognition cognitively, oh yeah, I see a person bending down doing that. Let me give you the end of the drawing. I hope you see a bicycle. I got you to see what I wanted you to see. That's the key in negotiation. To get the other side to see what you want to see. In business, to value what you value. Price is not always the overriding concern. Let me bring to closure, have a couple more minutes, and I'll just do this with you. And this is a great way to remember this. This is me here. One more. Let's go back to this one. No, one more. Let's just flip this. No, it's underneath this one. Dr. Poster, this is called collaboration. Okay. A lot of people believe that negotiating in the classroom with students or in business always brings up some conflict or some crisis. And maybe that's true. We can overcome conflict and crisis because these are the 4 reasons that we have conflict in relationships and negotiation. We have logical reasons. I don't want to buy that car because it doesn't come in the right color. We have conflicting styles. 2 people have a different way of communicating. We let emotions color our concerns and we bring that to the table. And finally, we have certain constraints. Constraints by the organization, by the school. Here now are some ways that we can have resistance and conflict and overcome them. The first thing we have to think about is, I don't know if this is dark enough. At the negotiation table, in that situation we saw here, the students were attacking the professor. The professor was attacking the students. These are verbal, hopefully, just verbal threats, okay? Of course, ultimate conflict ends up in war, so it could be physical. People that don't attack, and by the way, you've all heard this, and if I'm talking to the educators out there, if you're my son, don't let anybody hit you. If anybody hits you in school, I give you permission to hit them back. How good is that? That doesn't work. The idea of fight or flight. Another style is to evade the conflict. I don't believe what they're saying to me, so they do this. Talk to the hand. Nah, I'll walk away. Let's sleep on it. We'll resolve it tomorrow. And tomorrow it's even worse. This is no good, and this is no good. Here are the good ways. You want to resolve a conflict and reach a win-win situation in negotiation? Inform the other person about your feelings. We call this in Speech 100 using I statements, which we're not going to get into here, but some of you might know what that's about. Express to the other person how you feel. What's your behavior, why you feel that way, and what can we do about it? Not you statements. You're an idiot. You don't know what you're talking about. Your price is too high. It's always you. If you use the I statement, it tends to lead to more conflict resolution. We can somehow unite. This means that we have to establish some common boundaries, some common ground. There's something we must be able to agree on. And by the way, if we can't agree in negotiation, that's okay. Not every negotiation must end in a deal. Sometimes no deal is the best deal. In the Harvard Negotiation Project, that's called the BATNA, the best alternative to a negotiated agreement. The last two are, open up. Honestly communicate your concerns. I can't talk to my kid about that. I can't talk to business about that. We had the BP oil disaster. Some of you are old enough to remember in 1982, the Johnson & Johnson Tylenol scare. Well, what did BP have to do? They had to negotiate to reboost their image as a company. What they did was they went on television and said, we live in Louisiana too. We eat the shrimp too. Meanwhile, we saw horrific pictures of ducks coated in oil. The negotiation was about rebuilding their corporate image. In 1982, Johnson & Johnson's Tylenol, the reason they did an issue with that and negotiated that, their stock dropped greatly on the stock exchange. Johnson & Johnson was responsible for inventing tamper-proof packaging as a result of that disaster. The last one, of course, is having an agreement, getting to yes. Okay? And so these are ways to conflict resolution styles. Now, since you're not in my class, and I'm not giving you a final exam and quiz on this, just let me show you a great way to remember these styles. It's all the vowels. Okay? Who is the most important person to know in a negotiation? Yourself. What do you need to do in a negotiation? Be honest, and if something comes up in a negotiation, to use a baseball vernacular, if someone throws you a curveball, what should you do? You take a timeout. You don't speak from the seat of your pants, because that will come back to haunt you and hurt you. I'll tell you my very last negotiation story. Lipstick one was pretty funny. This one's not so funny. I had a school here in New York City that rented out Avery Fisher Hall for an event, and they invited a guest speaker. The guest speaker was a senior senator of New York. His name is Senator Charles Schumer. Why? Because his daughter was a graduate of that year of that school. And they booked Avery Fisher Hall for a certain number of hours at a certain fee, and there was a contract signed. To make a long story short, the president of the student council invited President Bill Clinton to speak at that graduation. Why? Some of you might remember President Clinton opened up an office in Harlem next to the Apollo Theater. They thought that would be nice. Never thinking that President Clinton would accept, he accepted. Sam Blank gets a phone call from this school saying, could you call Bill Clinton and tell him he can only speak for 5 minutes? No. Why? Senator Schumer's going to talk. So I said, well, let's go back to Avery Fisher Hall and renegotiate that negotiation. And to make a real long story short, the custodian told me, no problem, you can have another half hour if you'd like. It'd only be $500 a minute. I was going to offer the discretionary funding, but not at $500 a minute. What I did was, I won't flip back to the chart, but in fact-finding, I had to explain, why do you need the money? Extra cleanup, and that was his issues. And I said, there's no way we could afford that. I went back to the school, and I said to the head of the school, you call President Clinton and tell him 5 minutes. I went back on my own without anybody from the school, and I said, listen, do you know that when the person stands here at this speaker stand, there'll be like a logo here, it'll say Avery Fisher Hall, Schumer and Clinton will be there, free publicity on television for you. He said, yeah, it'd be nice, except we negotiated an agreement that they would cover up that with the school logo. I said, I'll tell you what, I'll get them to remove the logo. Can we have it? You can have it for $2,000. Deal. Shook a hand. I go back to the school. I got a great deal for you. School said, no, we want the logo there. I said, I shook this guy's hand. My handshake is my word. I said, you got to take that logo off. No, we negotiate. It's in the. I said, listen, do you want President Clinton to speak or not? To make a long story even shorter, they took the logo off, and behind them, they flew some banner 100 times the size of this. That was a win-win situation. Avery Fisher Hall got their 5 seconds, 10 seconds on the local news. The President of the United States did speak. Senator Schumer spoke. The parents are very happy. And Avery Fisher Hall got their free logo. That was a win-win situation by using some creative way to somehow solve a problem. So here's my final concluding words. It's not negotiation. It's called problem solving. That's what we're talking about. We're talking about communication skills, which is what we do in Speech 100. Active listening, to listen to the other person. I think Kerry or one of my colleagues used the word, we framed it in a certain way. People frame their issues. Your job is to reframe the issue. That's the skill. The longer you do it, the better you get at it. Thank you very much.